Hello guys, it's Ben in Parts here, back at you again with another episode of this Cryptid cast series where I break down cryptids, their sightings, their possibilities, and I discuss if they could or could not be real. And today we've got a real treat because it's a hell of a story, but it's almost certainly a hoax. Today we have the Kasai Rex, a surviving T-Rex or large lizard that allegedly existed deep in the Congo. Now, there are numerous stories of this creature, numerous sightings, even a few photos, but all of it is almost certainly a bunch of kabuki. It's almost certainly inauthentic, but the whole yarn and story around it is absolutely fascinating. If you enjoy this video, like it, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss anything. Let's get started. The Kasai Rex is an alleged theropod cryptid from the Kasai Valley of the Congo. It's said to be a theropod such as a T-Rex or a Gigantosaurus. But the thing is, the only species of theropods ever known to have existed in Africa are the Spinosaurids, the Albelusaurids, the Allosaurids or the Carcharodontosaurids, and no T-Rex has ever been discovered in Africa. And linked to that, like I said before, it's highly likely to be a hoax. The story goes that one day in 1932, experienced Swedish hunter John Johnson, or Johansson in his native name, intended to hunt a huge elephant he'd heard of in the Kasai Valley. According to a letter he'd written to the Rhodesian media, he and a native servant left the Cape Town camp and ventured down there. But once they reached the valley, it seemed absolutely desolate. There were no animals anywhere. None at all. Eventually the servant spotted some, but they seemed strangely pensive. There were only 2 elephants, and nothing else in sight. Suddenly, a strange creature dived out of the bushes and toward the elephant. The servant fell back into the undergrowth while Johnson used his rifle to shoot the creature 3 times, hitting it once in the back, but it seemed to have no effect other than to make the creature retreat. Johnson, in amazement, picked his servant up and decided they had to beat a retreat back across the swamp to get back to their camp in Cape Town. But that first, obviously, meant crossing back through the swamp. As they crossed back into it, however, they heard a splash, and then 20 metres away was the same creature, eating a rhino, tearing the legs off with a single bite. Johnson's servant ran terrified, while Johnson stayed there. He immediately thought of shooting at the creature again, but not only was he worried the bullets would once more have no impact, but very helpfully, the servant had taken his shotgun. But he still had his camera, however, so he took a photo of the creature while it ate. The creature, hearing the sound of the camera click, thankfully didn't eat him, but instead dived into the swamp and disappeared, while the rhinoceros's body floated in a pool of blood. Johnson provided this photo to the Rhodesian media, and it was swiftly proven to have been a hoax. Johnson had cut an Indonesian Komodo dragon photo out of a nature magazine and pasted this into the photo himself. In addition, he'd never even claimed it was a dinosaur. That's right, he never claimed it was a dinosaur. He instead described it as a giant lizard. He said it was a lizard reddish in colour, with blackish coloured stripes, with a long snout and numerous teeth. In the end, it turned out to be a nothing lizard, nothing in colour, with nothing coloured stripes, no snout, and insignificant teeth. Could he have faked the photo because he'd genuinely seen something and wanted to have some kind of proof, however fake? Possible, but it's very unlikely. Not to be deterred, however, in 1933, a group of 5 hunters, including a recognised ivory trafficker, went to the Kasai Valley to hunt the creature, which they assumed was a giant crocodile, and which would fetch a hefty price if they managed to get its skin. Oh yeah, it's a rare creature. Let's go and hunt it to extinction. Great! They passed through the same swamp, then allegedly, one of the hunters saw a reddish tail sink into the lake. They all thought it was an anaconda, until they were surprised by a violent wave of water that fell upon them, knocking one of the hunters into the water. The others began to shoot violently at the huge being that surfaced, but then saw nothing, only ripples of water where it had once been. The man, hit by the tail, his arm broken, then allegedly got up and tried to reach the others, until a roar was heard from under the water. Then, suddenly, a huge creature lunged up from the water on their right side, blocking their path, then disappearing just as quickly. The hunters, not being big fans of this, then quickly left the area. But did they though? Because not only has the fake photo of the Kasai Rex been released, but another supposed photo of this creature has been produced, and it's fake too. The second photo, featuring the rhino, is superimposed from the Valley of Gwangi, showing a statue of a T-Rex imposed on a rhino, and it also shows a fat load of nothing. So what is the Kasai Rex? Is it real or is it a hoax? Well, both photos are fake, the story is almost certainly fake, there's not enough flora and fauna in the area to support a whole-ass giant T-Rex, much less a giant lizard. The Kasai Rex is almost certainly a hoax. There's only one other story that could potentially prove that it's not a hoax if it's real, but even then we have no creature description, And the details are very, very suspect. The story goes that in 1951 there was a sighting that could indicate its authenticity, and that's Robert Henderson's sighting. Back in his day, Henderson was considered a great hunter and expert zoologist, who had over 100 animal heads that he himself had hunted during his safaris. In 1950, he thought he might make a trip to Africa, to the jungles of the Congo, hoping he would find exotic and never discovered species. In August 1951, he allegedly made his trip to Africa, to the Kasai Valley. The town of Mutombo La Mata, where Henderson had settled, was close to the Kasai River, which he drove past in a jeep with all his crew. However, after the 6th day, nobody came back, and people in the town became concerned. 10 villagers and 5 military men. These 15 people then went to rescue them, and soon they found what looked like the remains of a camp, which had seemingly been there for 2 days before they took off. It seemed Henderson had gone into the depths of the Kasai Valley to hunt something else, since they already had gazelle viscera near the camp, the skins of them. The group camped there, and the next morning they continued their search. Once again, the strange thing was that the valley seemed desolate, there were no signs of life at all, and soon they found Robert and his group in a temporary camp, which was completely destroyed. There were pieces of Robert's companions, with limbs and heads everywhere. The remains were so mixed up that it was impossible to tell which belonged to which person. An investigation was carried out, and 2 events were considered. The first was that what had happened was the result of illegal hunters, but the marks on the bodies didn't match bullets or knives. The second was that an animal had killed Robert and his group, since the remains appeared to have been chewed up. But on the other hand, Robert's gun had been fired, as shotgun shells were at the scene, and still no animal corpses were found nearby. There was no way a hunter as experienced as Robert could have failed to shoot any animal that would attack him, or at least it's highly unlikely. After several years, the case was closed without any definite conclusion. However, the rescue team would say that it seemed like something huge and heavy had advanced on the camp. But once again, this story is completely unsubstantiated by anything. There's no proof this man existed in birth records, there's no proof that he was an actual person, we have no idea where this story came from, I can't find any substantiating information. The Kasai Rex is almost certainly a hoax, but it's a fascinating hoax. It's one of those hoaxes that is a bit like the hoaxes of the American lumberjack days. People go out into a region of the world hitherto unexplored. They spread wild and fantastic stories, some of which are unsubstantiated, some of which are misconceptions, some of which are outright hoaxes. It's one of those fresh, exciting frontier stories, and I genuinely do love this story. I think it's amazing. If you guys have any more suggestions for what you want me to do, please drop them in the comments below. Helps me out a ton in the algorithm. Subscribe, hit the bell button, drop this video a like, and share it among cryptozoology enthusiasts. I am a small channel. I've got about 403 subscribers. I would love to have more. I'm aiming to grow this channel first to 1,000, then 10, then 20, all the while increasing the quality of the vlogs every time. And one a day is put up between 5:30 PM and 6 PM English time, so if you want daily quality entertainment, please do share this channel around. Thanks again.